do you notice about all of these exponents? They're fractions now instead of a whole number, okay? Now, the only nice thing about this is with the exception of 1 to 6, I'm going to teach you what those mean because you have never seen this before, probably ever, okay? On the bottom part, the nice thing about these, it has the same rules we have been taught. The only difference is instead of giving you a nice pretty whole number, like maybe a 2 and a 3 here, I'm giving you 1/2 and a 2/3. Your rules do not change. What I have taught you will stick. Side by side we add, dropping in we multiply, division is subtraction. All right? So all of the rules that you have been taught up to this point are still in play. But what we do need to talk about is I want you on 1 to 6 here to have an understanding of what the heck we're talking about when we say 1/3. So if you look at 1 through 6, notice how they're just numbers. Okay? Now I'm going to teach you what this means and how to kind of break it down without a calculator. But we also have a calculator and you'll get to use it on your test. So you should not miss 1 to 6 on your test. Does that make sense? Because you have a calculator to check. But I am going to show you how this breaks down so you have a good understanding of it. And then on 7 through 12, now we're going to figure out, just go through our fraction rules. And again, you'll have a calculator if you're not good at fractions, okay? All right, so what we need to talk about first is what the heck are we talking about when we see something like b to the 1/2? It's just saying take the square root of it. That's all 1/2 means. It's saying on the bottom how many parts of something there are and how many I want to use. That's what this means. So total parts, and we're going to write this in here, okay? So this 1/2 right here, this guy tells you total parts, and the 1 is how many you use. Number you use. Okay? Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's apply this to a number so we can kind of start talking about it a little bit. So if I say 5 to the 1/2, I am actually just telling you to take the square root of 5. Sorry. This should be 25, guys. It's my fault. If I say 25 to the 1/2, there we go. That is just saying take the square root of 25. Okay? So what I have to think, it's all in terms of multiplication. So 2 parts. What 2 numbers can I multiply to get 25 but they have to be the same? 5. Right, 5 times 5, right? This tells me how many parts to use. So if we know that we're going to take 5 times 5, that's the 2 parts, how many of them are we going to use? We're using 1 of them. So your answer is 5. Okay? Or you can think of it as what's the square root of 25? 5, because that means the same thing. The definition of square root is you have 2 equal parts and you use 1 of them. That's what square root is. Okay? So this guy, doesn't matter if I write it with a 1/2 or square root, I'm talking the exact same thing. Okay? So again, let's try a different one. So if I say 49 to the 1/2, right? That would be the same thing as the square root of 49. Those are the exact same thing. Okay, so this tells me I have 2 parts. So what would my 2 parts be here that have to be the same number? 7. Okay, so 7 times 7. And how many parts am I going to use? 1. So 7. Okay, or the square root of 49 is 7. So now let's take a look at it when it's a different number, okay, than 1/2. So if I look here at 1/3, okay, it's telling me 3 parts. So I'm going to have to break it into three numbers now. And then the top number still tells me how many I need. Okay? So if I do 8 to the 1/3. Now, you can technically write this as a square root, but what you have to do is put a 3 out front to tell us that there's going to be 3 parts we're going to use. Okay? So that's what that means. And that 3 out front just tells us we're going to break it into 3 parts. Okay, so what times what times what gets us 8?
2 times 2.
Good, guys. 2 times 2 times 2. So now if I have 2 times 2 times 2, how many parts am I using? 1 part. So my answer is 2. Okay? All right, let's try another one here.
Can't you put the square root in the calculator?
We're going to get there. Calm down. We're going to get there. I just want you to have understanding of what we're doing first. Okay? All right, so now if I do 125 to the 1/3. Okay, what times what gets me 125?
5.
Good, guys. Good. So 5 times 5 times 5. Now, how many parts am I going to use here? Just 1 part, right? 1 part out of the 3. So my answer is going to be 5. Okay, so now, kind of draw a line or whatever you want to do here, okay? Or put it right underneath there if you ran out of room. So if I have 125 to the 2/3, okay, so I've changed it up a little bit. Instead of having 1/3, 1 part out of 3, I now want 2 parts out of 3. So first off, we already know the 3 parts are what? 5s, right? We know that's 5 times 5 times 5, right?
Yep.
So now I want 2 parts. So what do you think your answer is going to be? 5 times 5 or 25. Very good. Okay? So it's not tricky. It's just telling you here's how many parts to break it into, and the top number tells you how many of them to use. Okay? That's what a fraction means. All right, so let's take a look here at 27. And again, we'll use calculator in a second. Okay, so 27 to the 1/3. So what times what times what? We need 3 of them. 3. 3 times 3 times 3, right? So in this case, you're right. It'd be 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Okay, it has to be the same number, and it says 1 part. So what's my answer going to be?
3.
Just 3, using 1 of them.
So could you like write back to how
Yeah, all you got to do, like literally all you have to do, if you could do some of this in your head, you can just write 3. Okay. Again, I'll show you the calculator here in just a second. Okay, let's try another one. So this one hopefully should be kind of easy for us. 81 to the 1/2. 9, right? 9 times 9. Okay, but again, we talked about that would be the same thing as the square root of 81, right? These are the same thing. Okay, so 9 times 9, and we want 1 part. So our answer is 9. Okay, we doing okay so far on this? Not too bad? All right, so what is 8 to the 2/3? So first off, what times what times what gets us 8? 2. So we know 2 times 2 times 2. Now how many parts are we using?
2.
So what's our answer going to be?
4.
4. Very good. So my final answer is 4. Okay, now let's take a second. Let's put this in our calculator. Make sure we can do that. Okay, so everybody go ahead. Let's type in 8 to the 2/3 in our calculator. So you're going to do 8. Put your arrow. Okay, use your arrow. And then put your fraction at 2/3. Okay, you should get 4. Arrow. You got to put your exponent in. And you use that y to the x button. So you do 8. Y to the x. And then 2 AZ. There you go. Okay, anybody else? Anybody not get 4? Let us come around and help you if you need it. Doing okay? All right. So let's then go, and let's take a look at this one. Okay, let's kind of come up with a theory here first, and then we'll check it. Okay, so -1, and it says 1/5, so how many parts do we need? 5 parts. Now, -1, well, what number can go into a 1?
Well, none. Well,
No, there's something that goes in there.
oh.
1s, right? 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 will work.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to have a negative base. So this means that I have a -1, a -1, a -1, a -1, right? There's 5 of them. And how many am I going to use? You're just going to use 1 of them. So your answer is -1. Now, real quickly, different color here just to kind of, if I said -1 to the 2/5, so same problem, still 5 parts, but now I say there's 2 of them. They would be +1, right? Because you would have a negative times a negative, that would give you a +1. Does that make sense? So be careful with the negative. Now, calculator. If, for those of you who have the yellow calculator, one similar to that, you go ahead and you can type in -1 with parentheses and 1/5, and you should get out a -1. Go ahead and do that. Okay, you, and you. Your calculators will not recognize the negative. It won't do it. It'll give you an error message. So the only thing you can do is make it a positive and then have to think through the negative part. All right, so your calculator, if you put -1 to the 1/5, it'll give you an error message. It won't let you do your negative base. So you would have to just put 1 to the 1/5 and then figure out if it's positive or negative. Okay, or use your calculator. Okay. All right, any questions on all that? Okay, so now, let's go to the next one. -27 to the 2/3. Okay, so what are we thinking there? 3 things that get us -27.
-3.
Okay, good, I agree, -3. Okay, so -3, -3, and -3, and how many are we gonna use?
2.
Okay, so what is -3 times -3? Very good, guys, very good. +9, negative times a negative is a positive. Again, put this in your calculator. it should give you a positive 9. Okay, so if you put parenthesis, negative 27 to the 2/3. Okay? Okay, is everybody good there? Everybody get 9? Okay, so then the last one we need to look at, of course, is when we have a fraction. Okay, now, this is not tricky, you just do the top and you do the bottom. Just like we were doing one number, you're gonna do the same thing to both numbers. So we want one part out of 2, right? So what's 4 gonna break into?
2.
2 and 2, correct, okay? So I would have 2 times 2 on top, what about the bottom?
5.
5 times 5, now how many parts are we using of each?
1.
So my answer is going to be 2/5. Okay? Now, again, guys, keep in mind, it's just saying the square root of 4 over 25, which is the same thing. Square root of 4 is 2, square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so just keep in mind, a half is the same thing as a square root. They mean the same thing. Okay? All right. Okay, so now let's drop down.